Hi everyone, welcome back for episode 2 of Baking in Blue. Today we're going to be making some cinnamon rolls with 2 different kinds of icing. So as always, let's get started with our ingredients. So here for our ingredients we have 1/4 ounce of active dry yeast, and you can use a cake of compressed yeast instead if that's what you have. A cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of shortening, 2 tablespoons of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, 3.5 cups of flour, which I have divided into a cup and then the other 2.5 cups, an egg, and then over here for the filling we have 1/2 cup of butter, a cup of sugar, a tablespoon of cinnamon, and a cup of raisins. And depending on how you want to make these, you can vary how much cinnamon you use, and then the raisins are totally optional. I just like to add them because I think it makes the cinnamon rolls a lot better, but you can leave them out if you want. New camera angle, who dis? So, first step here, we need to soften the yeast. So, for the active dry yeast that I have, you want water that's about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a little bit warmer than you'd want for washing your hands. And then if you're using the cake of compressed yeast, you want it at about 85 degrees Fahrenheit, and that would be about normal hand washing temperature. So, let's go ahead and do that. Okay. That feels about right. So, get a 1/4 cup of water, and we'll just dump it right into our little bowl here. And I already put the yeast in there. Okay. So we're just going to let that sit. So I will set it aside back here. So also, I think you can see my feet now. So if you were wondering what all the little clacking sounds were in the background, it's my little toesies. So next up here, we're going to take the shortening and the sugar and the salt and put them in this bowl, and then we are going to scald the milk, so get it really, really hot. So for that, I'm going to throw it in my microwave for a couple minutes. I'm going to do 1 minute, let it sit for about 30 seconds, and then do another minute, and then we'll dump that on top of here. So throw in our shortening. Boop. And our sugar. And salt. Okay, and then we're going to microwave our milk. So make sure you're doing this in a microwave safe container. I'm using my little glass measuring cup, and it will get very hot when it microwaves, so be careful. Like I said, this container is going to be really hot after you microwave it, so use a little oven mitt here to hold it. And then we will dump it in. Boop. Yeet. Okay. Okay, and then we'll just gently stir this up. Try to break up the shortening a little bit if you can. It'll break itself up because this milk is really hot and it's melting it already. It's already very melted. So we'll stir that up a little bit. Okay, and that needs to sit until it gets down to a lukewarm temperature, so about that 85 degrees Fahrenheit again. So I will see you back here when that's ready. And we are back. So our milk mixture has cooled down. So we're going to add the 1 cup of flour, stir that up a little bit, then add the yeast and the egg, stir that up, and then we'll mix in the rest of the flour. So start here. We'll add our 1 cup of flour. Just going to stir that up a little bit. Okay. And so you can see here that our yeast is activated. It's got some nice little bubbles in there, and it's all combined with the water. So I'm just going to dump that in here. And scrape off anything that got stuck to the bowl here, because we want as much of that in there as we can get. There we go. Okay. And our egg. There we go. One day that will not work and the egg will just shatter in there. So look out for that. Okay. So stir that up some more. To combine it. And now to mix in the rest of the flour, you either need something with dough hooks or to just use your hands. If you try to use something like this with just the regular beaters on it, you will destroy this mixer. I promise you, don't try it. And most electric mixers like this will come with dough hooks. So if you see these and you're not sure what they are, don't just throw them away, because they are useful. And if you have trouble putting them in, I don't know if you can see here, but this one on this side has a special little ring around the edge, so it only fits in one way. So watch out for that if you have trouble putting them in. Okay, and now I'm going to add the rest of the flour about a cup at a time and mix it up. Here's the last of our flour. So you're going to hear, even though I am using the dough hooks, you're going to hear how much it's going to start straining trying to mix this. So really, do not try to use regular beaters. If you don't have these dough hooks, again, just use your hands. Using little up and down motions here to get all the flour that's stuck to the side of the bowl. You see, making a nice little ball there as go. Okay, there we go. We're going to cover this bowl with plastic wrap and then put a rubber band around the edge to kind of seal it a little better. That'll help it rise more. And we're going to let it rise for about an hour and a half until it doubles in size. So I will see you back here when that's ready. Okay, so we are back. So first step, we're going to mix together the filling for the cinnamon rolls. And I'm going to start by microwaving the butter so it turns into a liquid. And then we're going to dump the sugar and the cinnamon in the butter there and just stir it up a little bit just to get it kind of nice and mixed up. 16. Okay, and then while that's cooling, we'll just set it aside. And so, as you can see here, our dough has nicely puffed up. Okay, and now we're going to roll out the dough, and we're going to start by flouring the cutting board here. And you only want to use about a 1/4 cup of flour. You don't want to add too much because that'll make the dough too dry when it's done and ready to bake, and we don't want that. So I'm going to get about that right there, about a 1/4 cup, and just sprinkle that over the top of the cutting board here. Okay, and then rub that dough on the other hand. That'll help the dough not stick when you get it out of the bowl here. Boop. Any little straggling bits of dough out of here. Okay. There we go. Okay. And before you start rolling, you want to flip the dough over once so both sides have flour on them. Just like that. Okay. And I'm going to use a rolling pin just to make this easier. If you don't have one, you can just use your hands. Just press it down. And you want to roll this into a rectangle that's about 8 inches by 16 inches. Doesn't really, the actual size doesn't really matter. Just needs to be, one side just needs to be longer than the other one. And then once that's rolled around, I'm going to flip it over. Make sure this side has more flour on it. Boop. Okay. And roll out this part again. So this will make about 16 rolls. We're going to cut them apart into about 1 inch a piece. If you want thicker rolls, then cut them thicker. Thinner rolls, cut them thinner. And you can roll it out thicker too if you want. If you want like 6 really big cinnamon rolls, you could roll it out to 1/2 inch and cut them really wide. But I'm going to be making them about, when they're done, they'll be about that big, probably. So, adjust them for however big you want them. And then now just spoon the filling on top of here and spread it out. And you want to pick one edge where you're going to start. I'm going to start on the edge closest to me here. And you want to leave the other side, you want to leave about 1/2 inch where there's no filling, because that's where we're going to press the dough together and seal it. And it won't really seal if there's filling on it. Okay, so on this edge closest to you, you can see I've left about 1/2 inch of plain dough. That's where we're going to seal it. And if you don't want raisins, then start rolling it up right here, but I'm gonna add my raisins now. And I'm adding a lot of raisins because I like a lot of raisins, but you'll probably want less. So if you want less, or if you want more, add however many you want. Okay, now we're gonna roll this up. So we flipped over the dough after we had rolled it out, because when the dough spreads out more, you'll get the edges that didn't have flour on them when you started. You'll get them on the bottom of the board. And if we hadn't done that, then it would be sticking a lot right now to my cutting board here. So make sure that you do that, because it'll make rolling it up right here way easier. And let's slide this back a little bit. Okay, now we're going to get our edge and scoot that up a little bit. And pull up that edge, press it down, we'll seal it. If I could grab it, there we go. Okay, and then take the two ends and seal those up. Okay, and then get a really sharp knife. Don't try to use a butter knife because it'll stick a lot. Get a really sharp knife over here. And cut them however wide you want them. Or however tall they will be finally. I guess that's a more appropriate way to say it. These are going to rise more, so cut them a little bit less of what you actually want them, of what you actually want their height to be. They'll rise about ½ an inch more than what you're cutting them here. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to grease up 2 little round cake pans to put these in, and then we're going to wrap them up with plastic wrap again and let them rise. They will rise to however much room you leave between them in the pans. So space them apart appropriately there. If you leave ½ an inch gap between each of them, it will fill that ½ an inch gap. So if you want them the size that you cut them, put them right next to each other. So I'm gonna get that all prepped, and then I'll see you back here when they are ready to bake. As you can see, our rolls have risen and they're ready to bake. So I put the 5 biggest ones in this one tray, and then the other 8 in here. And when I put the 8 in there, they were all pretty much touching already. And as you can see, now they're completely touching. There's no space left on the bottom of the pan. But the 5, however, these were still almost an inch apart when I put them in the tray, but now they're all touching. So, as you can see, they will get as big as they have room for. And you also want to make sure when you grease these pans up before you put the rolls in, that you grease all the way up the side, because they will go all the way up the side. So we don't want them to get stuck. We're going to preheat our oven to 375 Fahrenheit and put them in for about 20 minutes, just until the tops start to turn golden brown. So I'll see you back here when they're done. The rolls are out of the oven, but we need to wait for them to cool down before we can put the frosting on. So while we're waiting for that, we're going to make the frosting. So we have the ingredients for the two kinds of frosting we're going to make here. We're going to make a very simple frosting that's just sugar, and we're going to make a cream cheese frosting. And cream cheese frosting is what you usually have on cinnamon rolls, but if people don't like the taste of cream cheese, you can make the simpler one. And the simpler one, this is just a cup of powdered sugar and about 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. I say about because you can adjust it by about a teaspoon if you want the frosting to be thinner or thicker. And for the cream cheese frosting, we have 2 ounces of cream cheese, and this is the solid brick of cream cheese, don't get the spreadable kind. Have 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, half a teaspoon of vanilla, and a cup of powdered sugar. And because there's more stuff here in the cream cheese frosting, this will make slightly more frosting, so keep that in mind. Both of these frostings will cover about one of those pans. So if you just want to make one type of frosting, then double the ingredients here. Okay, so we're going to start off and make the simple frosting first. So we will just dump all of the powdered sugar in here at once. And then we're going to add most of the heavy whipping cream. So probably about 85% of here, like that. And then we'll add the rest if we need to. Okay, I'm fine with that consistency, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I know that may not look like a lot of frosting, but it is enough to cover one of those little pans. Okay, and then here for our cream cheese frosting, we're first going to add the butter and the cream cheese and blend those together. So, plop the cream cheese down here. Doesn't want to come out. There we go. Okay. Okay, and the butter. Butter also doesn't want to come out. There we go. Okay. Okay, and we'll mash these together. Okay, and then we'll blend in the vanilla. Yep. Okay. And then all the powdered sugar. Okay, so as you can see, only a cup of powdered sugar in both of the frostings, but this one makes almost twice as much, so keep that in mind. And now we're going to frost these, and then we'll be done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Meet me back here next week and we'll be making some maple pecan cookies because it's fall and I love fall. So until then, I hope you have a great week. I love you all. Bye.